let's take a look at solving percent problems that have equations. And most of the time we have to translate word problems into percent problems with that have equations that we can solve. So we need to know a formula, which is percent times base is equal to the amount. Now, how do you know the three parts? Well, percent is converted to and from a decimal. It is always used, the word percent is used, or the percent sign is used. So percent's usually pretty easy to identify. The base is followed by, or very close to the word of in our word problem, and amount is always next to the equal sign or the word is or what represents equals. So let's look at the first one and see if we can follow along and find the three pieces. It says 36% of 72 is what number? Well, we know our percent is 36. There's the P. We know of 72, so the 72 is next to the word of. That's going to be our base. The word what number is the unknown. That's next to the word is, so that's going to be our amount. Now, what we're really saying here is percent of is always translated into times. So percent times base is the A or the X, the amount. And that's the pieces we need. So let's just translate it. And always we have to take percentages and change them to decimals. Remember, we take the percent sign away. We move the decimal point 2 places away from the percent sign. So 36% is 0.36. And we say times for the word of 72. And we say equals for the word is what number. We're going to represent that with an X. Now, all we have to do to solve here, because X is already isolated, is to multiply 72 times 0.36. We have to do it without a calculator, so we're going to work at multiplication tables here. 6 times 2 is 12. Carry your 1. 6 times 7 is 42 plus 1. And we put a 0 down. We multiply times the 3. 3 times 6 and 3 times 7. And then we're going to add. And we're going to place our decimals. We have 2 decimals, so we'll place 2 decimal places. And our answer, 25.92, is our unknown, our amount, or our X. And we go back and we say 36% of 72 is 25.92. That sounds pretty close to right, and that is the correct answer. Now let's look at example 2. It says 0.7 is 20% of what number? We could do straight translation here. We could say 0.7 is represented by equals 20%. Got to change it to a decimal. Move the decimal point 2 places to the left, so it will be 0.2 of what number is times what number is our unknown, so times X. Now to solve, we're going to divide by the coefficient of the X term. We're going to divide by 0.2. The 0.2's will cancel over here. I'll have X is equal to 0.7 divided by 0.2. You should remember that you cannot divide by a decimal. So I have to move it, and I'll have to move it in both numbers. If I move it in one, I have to move it in another. I'll place the decimal in my answer. I'm going to put a 0 in here because I'm probably going to need it. 2 will divide into 7 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract and bring down the 0. 2 will now divide into 10 5 times. I multiply 5 times 2, it's 10. And that's my answer, 3.5. For example 3, the unknown this time is the percent. This one is a special case. We're going to put a star by it. When the unknown is the percent, we're going to have an extra step at the end. We're going to have to translate a decimal back into a percent. So our unknown percent will represent with X. 40 is going to say times 40 is 60 equals 60. Now remember, the 3 pieces are always percent, base, and amount. You can use your formula, percent times base equals amount, to identify, or you can sometimes, as in these problems, just do straight translation. How do I find out what X is all by itself? Well, X times 40 is the same as 40X, isn't it? Remember, we can change, because of the associative property of multiplication, we can flip those around. 40x, 40 times x, and x times 40 are the same thing. And that makes it easier for us to see that we divide by the coefficient of x. So now we know that x is equal to 60 divided by 40. Well, let's do that. 60 divided by 40. Let's place a decimal just in case we need one. And 40 goes into 60 one time. I subtract, and I will need to bring down a 0. 40 will go into 200 5 times. My answer is going to be 1.5, but remember, I put the star to remind me the unknown was a percent. Now, if I want to have my answer represented as a percent, I have to move the percent at the decimal point 2 places to the right this time. And the answer, 150%.